Joe talks about Joe. And now, your host, Joe Slepsky.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Joe on Joe. It's me, your host, Joe Slepsky, and we are back this week for G.I. Joe, Joe on Joe Illustrated. That's right. If you're unfamiliar with the show or new to it, every week I go over a piece of G.I. Joe history in sometimes excruciating detail. Sometimes I gloss over it, hopefully to your pleasure. We have done all of the animated episodes up through the Extreme series, and now I'm working my way through the comic books, and we'll see where we go from there. Today is 133, which is Snake Eyes on the cover. We are veering dangerously close into the Marvel Presents Snake Eyes featuring occasional G.I. Joes territory, but we're not there yet. But you can see the writing is on the wall. So that's what we're dealing with. And I love Snake Eyes. Don't get me wrong. You know me. I'm a Snake Eyes stan. But I got lots to talk about with Snake Eyes this week. Before we do get into that, I want to thank each and every one of you who follow and like and comment and post and send emails on social media. That is at Joe on Joe Pod, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can also send me an email to joeandjoepod@gmail.com. Like our friend Scotty Cameron has. He sent me some notes, man. I appreciate everything you send me. It's so great. It's really great chatting up listeners and getting to know you guys. This part of the fun part of this gig is expanding my horizons and getting to know people all over the world who have the shared interest and common love of G.I. Joe. While you're on the internet, you're leaving reviews for the podcast on your podcatcher. Maybe you're visiting the Patreons, patreon.com/JoeandJoePod. Maybe you're going to sign up and help support the show, or maybe you're going to go check out our sponsor, the Movies and a Meal podcast. Listeners, I know what you need in your life. You need more podcasts, and you also love movies. So why not do a podcast that's about not one movie? It's about not two movies. It's about 3 movies and a meal. I'm talking the Movies and a Meal podcast. This show is great. It's brought to you by Keith, Brad, and Ben, and each week they bring a new movie to the table, which they all discuss as a group. And it's not, your highfalutin movies. It's What We Do in the Shadows, The Fantastic Four, Rise of the Silver Surfer, and Out of Sight. It's Bad Education, Ghost Rider, and A View to a Kill. It's X-Men Last Stand, Queen Sugar, The Mandalorian, and Major League 2. They are a lot of fun to listen to. You guys know Ben. It's our friend Ben Pensarga. He was a guest on Joe and Joe. In fact, Ben was the very first remote guest that I ever had on this podcast, so he's always got a special place in my heart. I'm really digging this. I just started listening to it last week. It is a lot of fun. They bring a guest in. The guest, I listened to their Heathers episode. They were joined by Kelly, and she went in depth on her favorite movie, which was Heathers, and it made me want to go watch Heathers to watch with them. I really dig it. So guys, find them out there at Movies and a Meal, Twitter, Instagram. Their website is moviesandameal.podbean.com. They put out 1 episode a week. Give them a listen, guys. Support them. Let them know Joe on Joe sent you. I don't think you're going to be disappointed. It is quite entertaining. And now back to the show. Now last week was San Diego Comic-Con. So there's a lot going on there, G.I. Joe related, guys. Between Super 7 and Hasbro, there was a whole lot to unpack. Super 7 did that great Cobra pop-up. Two good friends were down there, Jeremiah and Paul. They've sent me updates. I've been told they grabbed some swag for me. I don't exactly know what I landed yet, but I'm excited to see it. I think the Super 7 stuff looked fantastic. And over at the Hasbro booth, I guess it was the Dr. Mindbender. There was supposed to be a code, and it was supposed to be, I guess, maybe unique to the show, but then that got on the internet, and everyone was able to order a Dr. Mindbender. Everyone except me, apparently. I didn't hear about it until it was too late. So to those of you who got your Mindbender locked in early, kudos. I'm excited. I can't wait to get my hands on a Dr. Mindbender. But the pre-order, it sounds like, was kind of internet available to all. So happy, congratulations to everyone that was able to snag that bag. So that's really cool. There was no mass market Joe news. I frankly was surprised that the announcement of where J. Joe was going next wasn't made at San Diego. I assumed that would be the platform, but apparently that's not been decided yet. Speaking of publishing comic books, this week IDW published another of their best of summary kind of, we have access to the library, let's print a bunch of stuff and see what sells books. This was the best of Snake Eyes. And if you have delicate ears, turn off the radio, because I did not like this cover. In fact, I didn't like the cover so much that I didn't buy it. And I've been buying all of these, and I have all of these, like all these best of books, best of, didn't they do a Serpentor one? And I thought they did a Cobra Commander one recently, or whatever. I've been grabbing them literally to support the brand. And I was going to do that this week with Snake Eyes, because obviously he's the man. This cover was a real big turnoff. I don't know who Biggie is. I don't know who the artist is. I imagine in some form, and this, I'm sure I sound to some people like an old man get off my lawn, but it's really funny that this book came out the same week that I'm covering 133, because they have absolutely the same graphic color palette, 100% the same color palette with the same subject in the middle. So this is not lost on me, guys. We're going to get to that. So that's really funny, kind of a stroke of luck. But when I wasn't going to say anything, and then when I saw the cover that I was doing this week, I realized, oh, that is so funny. That's so close to that cover. I had this book in my hands, and I put it back on the shelf because I already had all the issues. I don't need to rebuy them, and it's not an attractive cover. I don't know what the initial concept was. I'm not familiar. When I Googled Biggie, I'm not even kidding, I tried to find out more about that. All I get is information about Biggie Smalls, which, hey, that's cool. I'm down. But I couldn't find, I don't know what the deal is with this style of art, where it normally, like, is this something that's normally used on, like action figure, like Funkos, or, not Funkos, but you know what I mean? Like, I don't know where this style is, but I know that I don't like this cover. I don't know why. It is really, it's not good. I think maybe when it's blown up to full comic book size, it's just the lack of detail. And I get it. That's the lack of detail is the point. But like, it's just not good to my eyes. Not saying that there's no artistic merit to it, blah, blah, blah. Everyone can, you can all draw your own conclusions. Maybe in a thumbnail, I can see how it would pop, to be honest. But once it got to real comic book size, man, it was a turnoff. And I mentioned it to someone else at the store as I was putting it back on the shelf, and they had the same reaction. They also were like, yeah, that is an off-putting cover. So, I don't know, I don't mean to be a jerk. I really don't, but it not the best choice for covers for this. So it's, yeah.
You were saying?
I was saying. And this is the segment where we look at other comic books that were on the shelf the same month as the book in question. So this book in question is G.I. Joe 133, and this book was on the shelf, at least it's cover dated, February of 1993. So over at DC, which last month we talked extensively about, the death of Superman and all that stuff. Well, his funeral continues. Supergirl over in Action Comics, she opens up Superman's tomb to find that there's no body inside. Who stole Superman's body? Of course, that is one of the clues that leads us to the, not Legion of Superman, but what's the Reign of the Superman. So the idea that since his body's gone, that really means one of those four dudes could be Superman, not Steel, and probably not Superboy, but it left open the option that the Eradicator or the Cyborg Superman could have actually been Superman. So when they came up with this idea to have the body stolen, it's so smart. It just opened so many doors. I really, really enjoyed that they did that. Bane continues to kind of wreak early vengeance in Batman 489. I think that's a Travis Charest cover. That's fun. He's like choking out Killer Croc. There's a so Killer Croc's fun. There's a way to do him that's like, so in this image, he looks like a weird green dude in wrestling trunks. And then there's you can sometimes go a little too far, which I always thought Jim Lee's version went a little too far and made him too crocodile-y. I do like the animated version actually, but that doesn't translate, that like loose style doesn't really translate to a traditional comic book, non-animated style comic book. But this is, so Killer Croc here looks just like this weird wrestler who painted his body green and got in a wrestling match with Bane. That's what I'm seeing there. What else do we have here? Green Lantern. Oh, Green Lantern Mosaic number 9. It's a nice Christmas issue. Talked before how much I enjoy Mosaic. Legion of Superheroes 40 is fun because Wildfire you think is back and then he's not. Wildfire was one of the most beloved characters from the previous run, and they just left him entirely out of the 5-year later gap. So then you thought he returned in this, and then it was. I think this was this maybe Quizlet or it's something like that. It wasn't exactly Drake Burroughs that came back here. So, but you have Wildfire on the cover, which got Legion fans real excited. What else do we got here? So, Star Trek. So Star Trek 43, and then the next gen 43. This is out of DC. This just gets me thinking. Otherwise, I just started watching Strange New Worlds, and man, do I enjoy that! It's really good so far. I think I've watched about 7 or 8 episodes, and it really plays like in episodes of the old school. The original series TOS. I really, really like it. I like that Pike is like a less hubris-y Kirk, and the young Spock and young Uhura I really dig. Some stuff on it I'm a little it's a little, I guess, not really, it's not really a lot that I don't like about it. It's good. I'm enjoying it. We just got Paramount Plus, so I'm enjoying breezing through it. I think there's like 2 episodes left, but so far I really enjoyed it. I didn't get that into Picard. I didn't love Picard all that much. I'm going to give it a shot, try to finish it, but yeah, the Strange New World is pretty good.
You were saying?
I was saying, Stalker. So now we're going to look at a Marvel Comics. February of 93. Amazing Spider-Man 374. This is it during the era where Peter's parents were back alive, and they were around for like a year and a half or something. It was a while. It wasn't one and done. They ended up being it was a plot of Chameleon, if memory serves. But this is Venom meeting Peter's parents for the first time. That's exciting. And this is when Venom is still just a Spider-Man bad guy. Although I think they've already started branching him off into trying to make him a good guy. But I still think he works best when he's just fighting Spider-Man. Boy, the cover on Captain America 412 is a hot mess. That is a real mess of a cover. I cannot defend that cover in any way, shape, or form. There's way too many colors, way too many people, and I know the idea is that they're all ganging up on Captain America, and if but that is, I'm not a fan of that cover. You Google it yourself if you want to see what I'm talking about. You'll see. Here we go. This is interesting. Again, Marvel in the early trade days. We're still in those. I would say we're still in early trade days. G.I. Joe and the Transformers trade paperback *1. Who had this? I certainly did not, because I had the original issues. I didn't need the trade. That's what I always said. I don't need the trade. I got the issues. Illuminator #1. Now this is it's a very, probably not a lot of people know about Illuminator. I believe Nelson was the artist on it, if memory serves. I got them recently, read them, and sold them. It's fine, but it's a Christian comic book. So I believe it was some Christian group came to Marvel and was like, we want to do a Christian superhero, and the Illuminator was born. It was like the power of God or something like that. It was fine. It's a standard 90s superhero adventure story. Nothing great. But it was a comic that I'd never even heard of. And I saw the issue sitting at a con a few years back. And I was just like, I'll throw $10 down and read this. And, it's fine. But that's what it was. The Illuminator was out this month. Speaking of that, and I got to be honest, I've never read this book, but I can't imagine. Oh, it is. Holy cow. The Life of Christ, illustrated by Nelson, or at least written by, or something. What did Nelson do on this? And he did, what did he do? The cover? Take back everything I said. This whole time I've been confused, and I mean this. I'm sorry. I just Googled it real quick, figured it out. There was an artist named Nelson. It's got nothing to do with him. It's Nelson Comics. It was a jointly owned comic publisher run by Marvel Comics and Thomas Nelson Publishers, one of the largest publisher of Christian-themed materials. Active between 92 and 94, the imprint published Christian-themed material via comics, trades, and graphic novels. The venture ended due to low sales. So, yeah, they did Illuminator. They did The Life of Christ. They did The Easter Story. They did Pilgrim's Progress, C.S. Lewis's Screwtape Letters, and something called In His Steps. So, yeah. So, I could go back and edit it. But you know what? I think it's more fun to kind of go on that journey with me. Figure it out. Because I've always seen the Nelson there. And there is an artist named Nelson. And I 100% thought he was involved. He's not involved. Not at all. So sorry, Nelson. But yeah, so that's funny. So that's out this month. Marvel Age features Ren and Stimpy on the cover. Marvel Comics Presents has, it's Wolverine and Venom, of course. Looks like Knights of the Pendragon. I hope everyone caught Namor in the Black Panther trailer. That was very exciting last weekend. Punisher 2099 #1 shows up. This book also was on shaky ground until it became an AD book when he started, or actually he started working for S.H.I.E.L.D. That's when it was good. It was Punisher Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. and that book got good too. So it's like that one, and then last week we talked about Doom becoming good when it became Doom after Doom. So that's so the 29 books had a lot of quality there. They just needed to find their footing. And it's amazing that they gave them as much rope to hang themselves with. So, like normally these days it's like, oh, it's not working, we're just going to kill it. Like they really let those books grow. Venom Lethal Protector. Here we go. This is what I was talking about when they started trying to make Venom a good guy. So that actually is this month. Lethal Protector #1. This book's been going up. It's not a good book. Let's be very, very clear on this. It is not a good comic book. But it's the first Venom series, with Venom in the title. So obviously Venom being a big draw, it's climbing up back issues. It's like $30 or something now. It was 15 for a long time, and then about 20, and I think it's around like 30 now. So and it's got that cool red chrome background. It's got a very busy cover, but it's got a cool McFarlane-esque looking image of Venom on the cover. So if you got one of these, which you probably do, because there were a lot of copies of these, you could sell it for a couple of tickets to a movie. And then, that's it. Well, what if Cable had formed the X-Men, and I think this is the back or the front end of the second one is what if Strife had formed the X-Men. I think that's going to be next month. So let's see next week let's see if my memory is correct on that.
You were saying?
Well, that's it for You Were Saying. I'm sorry.
Now, mass is ready.
But before we go into that, I'm not even going to wait till the end for this one. I was reading another comic book, since we're talking comics. I was reading a comic book this week and came across something pretty cool I want to share with you guys. It's out of Action Comics number 478. Cover dated December of 1977, right? So we know that it probably was on the stands, I don't know, maybe September 76, something like that. Maybe August 76. And back in the back of the book, in the right past the letters pages, on the DC publishorial page, there is a DC Profiles number 24 on none other than Larry Hama. So I'll just read this all for you guys. I thought this was pretty cool. I figured you guys would want to share. Larry Hama comes to DC Comics as an editor with rather strange credentials. He's proficient as both a writer and an artist, as well as being an accomplished actor. Larry's interest in comics began when he was attending New York's High School of Art and Design. It was there that he met two young comic book fans named Ralph Reese and Frank Brunner. After a year in England, Larry eased into the unstructured underground comics medium before he was drafted. Upon his discharge, Larry drew his only story for DC, until now that is, while also penciling Iron Fist and Kazar from Marvel Comics. Luck was with Larry, and he landed a job as assistant to Wally Wood. He spent some time writing Cannon and Sally Forth for the Overseas Weekly. After his stint with Wood, Larry moved on to Continuity Associates, headed by Neil Adams and Dick Giordano, where he became one of the original Krusty Bunkers. And for the short-lived Atlas Comics group, Larry wrote two series, Planet of the Vampires and Wolf the Barbarian. The latter he created, wrote, and penciled. Podcaster's note, I did not know Larry was involved with Wolf the Barbarian. I've seen that book a lot come across the back issues. I'm absolutely going to snag that next time. I had no idea. I've not seen Planet of the Vampires a lot, although I'm familiar with the title. But Wolf the Barbarian comes through a fair amount, so I'm going to keep my eyes peeled for that. Back to it. In addition to all the time he spends behind the typewriter and drawing board, Larry has put in many long, hard hours as an actor. He was in the original Broadway cast of Pacific Overtures, as well as the road company of the same play. He was most recently seen in an episode of MASH, cleverly disguised as a North Korean spy. Joining DC staff as an editor several months ago, Larry has had his work cut out for him, such series as Wonder Woman, Mr. Miracle, and Jonah Hex. As a writer, Larry is going to set the comics industry on its ear, with the top secret project anticipated for release next year. Larry feels that what makes comics work is, quote, the ability of the writer and the artist to make their fantasies work on paper. It's the personal factor that makes comics come alive. You've got to really be there, unquote. Judging from Larry's work in the past, he's already there. Judging from his plans for the future, Larry is destined to go far beyond. I love this profile. I have absolutely no idea what his DC project that was going to set the comics industry on its ear the next year. Could it have been Warlord? Because he was also editor of Warlord. And could it have been Welcome Back, Kotter? Because he also was editor on Welcome Back, Kotter. Super Friends? Let me see. Warlord started in... Warlord started in 75. What did I say this was? 76-ish? So this would have been a year after Warlord was created. So I don't think it's Warlord. Could it have been Welcome Back, Kotter? Wait, no. Well, no, that's the TV show. I don't know. Maybe they were anticipating Welcome Back, Kotter just blowing up the comic book world. He did join Marvel in 1980, but I can't find. I don't know, honestly. I don't know. Super Friends. They mentioned Super Friends here, though, right? Maybe it's Super Friends. Maybe it's Super Friends or Welcome Back, Kotter. Because it says Kotter from 77 to 78. That's what the wiki says. So maybe they were anticipating Kotter to blow it up, which to be honest, I've read Welcome Back, Kotter comics. They're pretty funny. I quite like them. And I love knowing that I don't think I realized that he was involved in the Warlord book from DC, which is a fabulous book. Absolutely fabulous book. All that stuff's good. I gotta ask, even the Super Friends comics are really, really good. Especially when you think that they're when you kind of realize that they're in continuity. That's the wild part of it. They actually are in continuity. Look it up. Anyway, so that's exciting, guys. So I thought you'd enjoy that and share. So now,
mass is ready.
Let's look at G.I. Joe 133, and let's start with this cover. Which, if you look at this 133 cover and compare it to that Best of Snake Eyes cover, you see the similarities. So, did that Biggie, whoever that artist is, no offense meant, but did that artist see this book and try to riff off this? Is this an intentional riff? Certainly. My show randomly talking about this the same week that came out that is sheer consequence or sheer coincidence. Like there's obviously no planning there. But I think it's weird that they're using the same exact background style, this red with yellow explosions in the middle, and that is not a normal thing for G.I. Joe. It's a explosive shot of Snake Eyes, Uzi in hand, kind of launching himself at the reader, sword in his left arm, Uzi in the other. His outfit is this. They're coloring it this like green. It's the green blue action figure, so they're coloring it like the action figure really. Which I'm not a massive fan of, but he's got the like ninja boards on his forearms, and it's too clunky for my taste. But Andrew Wildman cover, and it's Snake Eyes exploding at you, and his hips are separated because the way his left leg is kind of jutting, and the way his right leg is kind of way back, I feel like he broke his hip. But who am I? I'm no anatomically correct master. I don't even know what those words are.
Yo, Joe!
G.I. Joe on Cobra Island. A recon team. We've got Duke, Lady J, Roadblock, and Snake Eyes. They're approaching Cobra headquarters. So if you remember last issue, they landed in that Halo jump, which was a really good issue because it was just a slow breakdown of the process of going through a Halo jump. I liked it. And they landed on Cobra Island, and they were trying to be as silent as possible, but they ran into two pretty operational bats, Battle Android troopers. They were pretty operational. Let's not say that they weren't, but they were like the discarded bats that Firefly had kept, so they weren't covered in any of the normal bat covering. They looked like Terminators or Cylons, Terminator bodies with Cylon faces. And they were able to take them out. So after they did that, though, the alarms weren't raised. Like there's not an all hands on deck because G.I. Joe's here thing. So they're still technically kind of under stealth a little bit. And as they're making their way towards the Cobra headquarters, they see a whole bunch of other destruction. There's more bats, there's more destroyed vehicles, and they're realizing that there must have been a major civil war that happened here between the bad guys. And sure enough, here comes another one of those Cylon looking bats, pops up out of the sludge. I shouldn't really use the word sludge because there is actual sludge, but out of the swamp, and it's points a gun at Lady J and is about to strike her down.
Yo, Joe!
And that's when Snake Eyes pops up. We got this nice double page spread, and it's pretty good. Although, once again, everyone's got their mouth out screaming. But it's a nice double page spread with Snake Eyes poking his katana through the bat's face and just general destruction. It works pretty well. He's got this huge Bowie knife in his one hand with the star brand reflecting off of him. We got script by Larry Hama. The story is called Recon by Fire. Script by Larry Hama. Andrew Wildman did the breakdowns. Stephen Baskerville did the finishes. Rick Parker lettering, David Wohl editor, Bob Sharon coloring, and DeFalco editor-in-chief. So typically when it says breakdowns and finishes, that means it's loose, very loose pencils. And then you give it to the inker, and so then they actually get paid a little bit more when it's usually credited like that. So because Wildman, I believe, was also starting to draw the X-Men Adventures comic book, so he probably was getting busy, etc., and so on and so forth. So I will say this on this page: Lady J is in a real awkward body pose, and she looks like she'd be at home in a Mad magazine, which is a fun, it's a fun conceit and not necessarily a bad art style, but it's a little weird. It's a little weird, but it feels very Mad magazine-y. If you see it, you'll know what I'm saying.
Yo, Joe!
So now we're on page 1, 2, 3, 4, because that was a double page spread. And we see that Snake Eyes gave them all the dope on what the situation was like on the island. I don't know why he didn't come with them. That seemed to make sense. That would seem to make sense. Oh no, was he injured? Maybe that's why. I can't remember. But Snake Eyes is finishing up his moves, and Duke is just he's all gravelly and 5 o'clock shadowed and very, very gruff in this. I really kind of like it. It's really kind of fun, when you think about it. Different from, I don't know, when I think of Duke, I think of, like, whoa, hold on. There we go. I think of, clean cut, etc. Duke. And we're back. Sorry about that. I'm having a little bit of an audio issue. So we're gonna forge ahead and see what happens here. Yeah. So Duke tells us that the only way to go forward is to penetrate the Citadel.
Yo, Joe!
All right, I'm back. I apologize. There's some technical difficulties on my end of the equation, so bear with me here. So, where are we at? We are on the page with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're on page 5, and it is Firefly hiding in the Cobra Temple. And they're waiting for the Joes. So they know the Joes are there, but they're not sending out an all-out assault team. But I think because they probably don't have a lot of resources left because they took out each other, right? But it's weird. Again, this was Firefly took over the island, but then Cobra Commander said, I don't care, take the island. So Firefly doesn't really have much of a plan beyond that. And he's got these Cobra ninjas that are under his control. And I don't really know what his agenda is beyond just doing this.
Yo, Joe!
And I don't know. I don't know if that was something I'm missing or just that's his agenda. Let's wait and see what happens. But it gives us a reason to assault things and have people fight people. So the Joes are going to kind of give Snake Eyes cover as he one-man shows it towards the parapets and towards the Cobra Temple, so to speak. So he does that here. And the Joes got their guns drawn on the temple, but then no one shoots at them. So Snake Eyes made it to the wall successfully. And when he gets to the wall, he's just quietly kind of listening. He's listening to see if he can hear his enemies on the other side.
Yo, Joe!
And as Roadblock says, he figures somebody on the other side will get antsy before he does. And is it Slice or Dice, the guy in red? He notices. He says, I sense the ninja presence outside the wall. And that's when Firefly puts a knife to his throat, which is I feel like that's extreme, especially because they're it's Dice in the red, especially because they're on the same team, even though he is brainwashed. But Firefly threatens him with slicing his throat open if he doesn't shut up. And that's when a rat knocks a glass off a table and Snake Eyes hears it. It's kind of a cool picture of Snake Eyes in the bottom corner. I like it. And I also like that they choose to have him, the angle that he's looking up after the noise that the rat makes is concurrent with the rat, even though like he's not physically looking at he's looking kind of to his right, which is like the sound came to the right, but the way they align it on the page, it tells you without saying it that he heard that rat. It's like an eye line basically is going from his eyes to what made the noise. So that's I like that.
Yo, Joe!
So now this whole issue is kind of a half silent issue and half regular issue. So all the Snake Eyes stuff is treated like the old school, the vintage G.I. Joe 21 silent issue. So Snake Eyes climbs up the side. No one's giving him any trouble. And he just breaks into this castle. And there's a lot of stray paperwork about reprogramming and mental programming and things like that. Like literally littered in almost every scene. So that's weird. And the three Joes I think they're also confused that no one's come out to attack him.
Yo, Joe!
We get more silent stuff. Nice camera work of, starting far. Snake Eyes gets close. The kind of camera kind of jumps up and takes a bird's eye view. More of this paperwork floating around. And then he cuts this wooden door in straight in half, top to bottom, not sideways. From the top to the bottom, and in doing so, he cuts a battle android trooper completely in half. That's a cool move. I like that a lot. So that's a good visual. Did he also cut? He did. I think they have it that he cut the Uzi in half, or the machine gun or whatever the battle android trooper was holding also got cut in half, which is really, really funny.
Yo, Joe!
So as he nears a green curtain, Snake Eyes knows there's a couple ninjas behind the curtain. The ninjas know Snake Eyes is on the other side of the curtain. They're sweating because they know they're dead meat, but they have to move, and he has to move. And he, in one swipe, accomplishes what they can't in two. He leaps over their two swords, and he aims for their necks. Let's add two more to the Snake Eyes kill count, ladies and gentlemen, because he was absolutely aiming for the necks on that. He was not aiming for anything other than that. So we are now up to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 40, 44 confirmed kills for the Snake Eyes kill count. This goes all the way back to issue number 1. It might be a little more, it might be a little less, but that's what we got for this show.
Yo, Joe!
So now here we go. Dice is about to make a move, and they're hiding underground, like and like under the floorboards, kind of a thing. So the floor starts to creak, which alerts Snake Eyes that that's where they're at. Firefly calls him off, and remember, this is the Firefly ninja version of the Firefly. This is not the cool version of the Firefly. This is the big gorky green costume Firefly. And yes, I just made a judgment call on it. Not the cool Firefly. So the Slice and Dice are, quote, compelled to obey you, so we accept this, because he says, don't mess with Snake Eyes. We have to draw the rest of the Joes inside the castle before we attack any of them. But the Slice and Dice say, there are some nagging shadows of memories, and when we remember everything, we may not obey you any longer. And then, but he's doing it with a knife to Firefly's throat, which again is like, are they brainwashed or are they not? I don't know. It's very confusing.
Yo, Joe!
And meanwhile, while they're having this little argument, Snake Eyes above knows they're below. So he's not going to let that go. And he puts a sword through the floor where he thinks he heard them. And he's not wrong, because it absolutely pierces the floor and lands directly into Dice's right hand. Firefly starts to say, don't scream, and Dice says, were you afraid I would scream? We ninjas have too much control for that sort of mistake. So he took a sword directly through his palm without saying a word. That's actually pretty good. I'm a fan of that. The only thing I would do different on this page is, and it doesn't really work with the way you read a page, but I would have loved to have seen Snake Eyes' sword kind of more in line, in continuity with that first thrust. So him thrusting it through the floor into the different panel, and then through that panel you see it hit his hand. I think that would have been fun. So maybe you shift the camera, and maybe you make this bottom two panels one panel. You move the camera into the, like to the left into the wall, right? So that Slice, we clearly see the sword has pierced his hand on the right side of the page, and Slice is talking to Firefly, Slice is talking to Firefly kind of over his left shoulder. And, I could see how it kind of ruins the left to right read flow of it, but that would have been neat to see instead of this like dual panel sword through the top thing. But it's overall, the message is conveyed here really well.
Yo, Joe!
So more silent action. Snake Eyes pulls his sword out. So he didn't hear the scream, but he certainly doesn't miss the blood on the side of the sword. Would have been neat. So let's throw this around. If it had been Snake Eyes on the receiving end of that sword, someone, and we wanted the heroes to win kind of a thing, someone would have cleaned the blade before it ascended. Like someone would have ran over there with a rag or something, and like let's say Storm Shadow would have jumped over there with a rag and Scarlet would have thought he was helping Snake Eyes, but instead he was pressing it on the blade to get wiped clean of blood before it went up. That would have been really cool. But since Snake Eyes is the good guy here, we need him to find the bad guys. So he sees the blood and he knows that they're down there, and he preps his Uzi. Again, now the paperwork that's floating around, that's to show that the place is totally empty and abandoned. That's a artistic code for there's no one here, because all this paperwork is just being loose. But it's just funny because it's just like how windy and how no one closes a window.
Yo, Joe!
So before the ninjas can attack, Snake Eyes is ready for him, and well, they do it at the same time. So the ninjas jump out of hiding with the bats, and there's a whole lot of rat-a-tat-tatting. This is a nice one-page spread. Bats, ninjas with Uzis, bats just all have firearms, and no bats with swords. But there's ninjas with Uzis. Snake Eyes is firing his Uzi. It's kind of got that Dutch tilt, like Batman 66 style. So it's a nice spread of Snake Eyes. I gotta be honest.
Yo, Joe!
This is the funniest line in a Joe book I've read in a while that I can recall. So Snake Eyes is just, shooting things. He's just rat-a-tat-tatting his machine gun, his Uzi. And Lady J calls it, that's Snake Eyes' signal. So his signal is just to shoot people. It's not much of a signal. That's more of Snake Eyes is now shooting people. We have to go in, as Duke says, we have to go bail him out. So I think it's funny that the signal is his Uzi firing on full auto. If he had only shot one bullet, that wouldn't have been a signal. But full auto, that's a signal. And Snake Eyes is holding his own, of course.
Yo, Joe!
So now Slice and Dice are questioning Firefly. He thinks he's going to handle Snake Eyes himself, overwhelming him with his, quote, superior tactical mind, while he sends Slice and Dice with a squad of bats to take out the other three Joes. And he says, rest of you red ninjas, rally to me. Prepare to assume the fighting formations. Now this, when we get to this, I'm not in favor of this fighting formation. Let me go on the record here.
Yo, Joe!
Meanwhile, as the Joes are entering this, deceased temple, empty temple, here come the bats and Slice and Dice and all that stuff, and they're shooting at the Joes, and the Joes are popping smoke and some Willy Pete, some white phosphorus. Everyone's mouth is agape. Everyone's very intense on this. The action has started.
Yo, Joe!
The colors are really vibrant. Now, this is that era where the action figure colors really started to get vibrant, and it is showing in this comic book, where everyone's this different color. There's no kind of color scheme. The Joes work well, but you've got the bright green on Firefly, and then the red ninjas, and the greenish blue on Snake Eyes, things like that. Which he's holding his own. He's taking out everyone he needs to take out. And we get Firefly here saying, form up the scorpion. Assemble the body, raise the tail, and he's speaking in third person here. Firefly himself will be the stinger. Oh boy.
Yo, Joe!
No. The Cobras attacking the Joes. They lost them in the dense cloud of smoke. This is that pop smoke Willy Pete that Duke threw. So basically they covered their, not exactly getaway, but what the Joes did is they hid in the swamp. And so there's no thermal reading. The infrared sensors detect no heat. So the bats and the ninjas think that they must have gone further into the swamp. So they go past the Joes. And Roblox giving Lady J credit for the idea, which is great. Submerging ourselves in the water between these burnt out bats threw off their infrared. And when they pop up, there's Duke with a giant cable-looking machine gun that's bigger. It's almost bigger than Roblox Mod Deuce. And Duke is hefting it with a massive left arm. Everyone stip a big bore weapon from one of these hulks and let's get strapping. That is as Duke's going to join X-Force later.
Yo, Joe!
And now we get to the final page of this issue. And we see the Scorpion. And it is a single page splash page. And Firefly on the top of a pyramid of red ninjas. So they have formed a pyramid like you were doing gymnastics or cheerleading, basically. And he says, the Scorpion was a secret battle tactic of your Arashikage ninja clan, Snake Eyes. It is an unbeatable form, impervious to counterattacks, and totally unstoppable. Prepare to feel the sting of the Scorpion. That is the dumbest posture of attack I've seen in a long time. I am not a fan of the Scorpion, guys. It is 100% like a cheerleading triangle. There is, I don't know what is happening here, but it is not good. So it's to be continued. We've got some letters here from Brian Pauling out of Womelsdorf, Pennsylvania. Jeremiah Conway out of Dellinson, New York. Mike O'Sullivan out of Loomis, California. Thomas Wheeler out of Tucson, Arizona. And Chad Hilty out of Hudson, Ohio. So, whereas last issue I enjoyed that kind of Halo breakdown, Halo dissertation. This issue takes a little bit of a step back. Not because it's not cool, because Snake Eyes assaulting anything is pretty cool. And they do a good job. They show him capable, so I do like that. I do like most of this issue, but the behavior of the ninjas, the Firefly and the ninjas, like I can't take them seriously. Like you bring in someone other than Cobra Commander, I want them to behave differently, and Firefly is behaving no differently than I feel like Cobra Commander would in this situation. And the Scorpion stance or whatever that is just cuckoo town. I don't get it. I don't like it. And when I look to issue 134, that's what's on the cover. So, hey, but you win some, you lose some. It's still a cool issue. And and also it is weird that if the Joes were really going for some kind of assault on Cobra Temple, why they would only send 4 dudes after Cobra assaulted the entire pit. Like, the Joes have so many people they could send. Even if you wanted to do kind of a secret incursion, you could send more than 4. It's crazy. Anyway, it's good stuff. G.I. Joe's fabulous. You guys are fabulous. Thank you so much for listening. And now you, Joe, and Joeing is half the battle.